Hello everyone, my name's Merlin, and in my previous video we talked about my top 20 SEGA CD games of all time. I said at the end that the last one was so grand that it had to be its own video. Looking back at my list, Popful Mail and Shining Force CD were amazingly polished games, however, they had their issues admittedly. Sonic CD, probably the objective best SEGA CD game, has been a real nostalgia trip for me being a huge Sonic fan, and Lunar 2 was a truly legendary and unforgettable experience that rivals that of many modern JRPGs. In the course of writing the previous video, I actually did not have a write-up for the last game right up until the making of this video. The game was so amazing, so profound, that I've spent months just having it resonate with me, sitting and trying to figure out just why this game is such a masterpiece. I think I finally found out what it is, so please sit back and enjoy as I talk in depth about my number one SEGA CD game of all time. There are very few video game intros that I can just watch or listen to as if they're music videos unto themselves, and I've played a lot of video games. There is perhaps no video game intro greater than this one. By intro, let me clarify, I mean what transpires after you press New Game. Even though there's no gameplay, I firmly believe it's the greatest video game intro I have ever encountered. In fact, I think it's so good, I'm gonna tell it to you. June 6, 1996, a mysterious explosion destroys the Chernobyl research facility near Moscow. Lucifer Alpha, a powerful biological weapon under secret development there, is released into the atmosphere, creating a deadly biohazard. Carried by the trade winds, Lucifer Alpha spreads throughout Eastern Europe and Eurasia, destroying 80% of the populace. Half of the world's people die. The greatest biohazard in history later becomes known simply as the catastrophe. But at this time, who could have possibly imagined the ultimate biohazard wouldn't occur for another half-century? 50 years later, mankind faces its greatest crisis, the appearance of a mysterious android life form. Its purpose and origin are unknown. Is it a new form of weapon, or perhaps an invasion from some other world? They appear during winter, killing humans, and infiltrating society by taking the place of their victims. Employing an artificial skin, they can sweat and even bleed. Part organic, part machine, they're almost impossible to distinguish from those they kill. As they steal their victims' bodies in order to take their place, these mysterious invaders become known as Snatchers. Oh man, it's just such an amazing, amazing intro. Like, it really gets me in the feel for this strange sci-fi Japanese world. Like, I have no idea how to even describe it. When I first turned on the game, I had no idea what I was even taking in. Wait, what is this? There's more? Oh my goodness, this song is just... Let me just have you listen to it. I can't even talk over it. It's that amazing. Oh man, this song, like, goodness, it makes me want to light a damn cigarette. That saxophone is borderline sexual. Okay, now that I've got my train of thought back, in case if it wasn't obvious, this legendary game is Snatcher. This cult classic was originally released on the PC-98 in 1988 by Konami, with the SEGA CD release being its only English port. There are fan translations, yeah, but this is the only official localization. Snatcher is perhaps the #1 example of what the SEGA CD was truly capable of in terms of sound, graphics, and hell, even storytelling. The music, as you'll hear going forward, just continues to be unbelievable. I have no idea why people compared this game to another SEGA CD visual novel called Cobra: The Space Adventure. It is downright unfair to compare Cobra to this masterpiece. Anyway, Snatcher was written and directed by Hideo Kojima. However, Kojima was not involved with the localization process of the SEGA CD version. It was produced specifically for English localization in North America and PAL regions. Selling only a couple thousand copies in the United States, Snatcher was deemed a commercial failure. Much like other swan song titles such as Lunar 2 and Wirehead, its poor sales are attributed to having been released at the end of the SEGA CD's lifespan. These days though, Snatcher is one of the most sought after holy grail games of all time.
How was work? Everything okay?
Gillian, what is it? What's wrong?
Jamie, I've become a junker.
A junker? Gillian, but why?
Jamie, you know why. It's the only way we can regain our lost memories. Snatcher is the only word that keeps coming back every time we try to remember our pasts. I have to face them to find out why.
Yes, but I can sense that there is something terrible hidden in our past. And if we remember it, it will destroy us.
Jamie! I'm going now. Jamie!
What? I can't hear you!
Gillian Seed, estimated age 31. 3 years ago, he and his wife Jamie Seed are taken into protective custody in the Siberian Neutral Zone for the 17th Siberian Investigative Force. Both Gillian and Jamie suffer from severe amnesia, their memories of events prior to being picked up in Siberia lost in mysterious mental fog. 2 years ago, after a vain attempt to rebuild their marriage, Jamie and Gillian separate. Following extensive special military training, Gillian is ordered to report to Neo Kobe City as a junker, effective today. I do not necessarily intend to talk about the game from beginning to end, however I will go over pretty much every part of the game that is important to me and figure out what, in my opinion, the message of this game is. Snatcher's narrative is so serious and mature even for someone my age. In almost every non-funny scene, I can't help but take it so unbelievably serious. I think this is due in part to the fantastic music and voice work. This port, although coming from an era of voice acting like Resident Evil and Castlevania Symphony of the Night, which those games' voice work isn't bad at all in my estimate, it pales in comparison to the wonderful work done by Konami and Snatcher.
Chief Cunningham, Gillian Seed is here. I brought him in as you requested.
Thanks for coming, Seed. I'm Benson Cunningham, the Chief of Junker Operations.
Gillian Seed. I've been transferred here from the 17th Special Forces Division.
I've heard all about your special training in the military, Seed. I hope you'll put it to good use on your new assignment here. By the way, I understand you're suffering from amnesia. Any sign yet that your memory's coming back?
I'm afraid not. I still can't remember a thing from before the Army picked me up 3 years ago.
You're married, aren't you?
Yes, but we're separated now. She has amnesia as well, and without any memories between the two of us, I'm afraid there was very little to base a good relationship on.
I can see your point there.
Our story begins with Gillian heading to the Junker headquarters, wherein he is welcomed by the Associates and becomes primed for his mission to learning the rules of being a Junker, obtaining a Junker ID, some cash, and other kinds of equipment such as a blaster gun.
This is your blaster, the official weapon of a Junker. It's got full user feedback circuitry, adjusting itself to your reaction time. In other words, it's just as good as you are. What do you think? Here, see how she feels.
It's unbelievably light.
You bet it is. This ain't one of those ray guns the Army uses.
Gillian is a very cool character in my opinion, and I think what makes him so memorable is that you can see some aspect of yourself in him no matter who you are, especially if you're a male playing the game. And that way he's kind of an everyman, like Isaac Clarke from Dead Space or Harry Mason from Silent Hill. Although quite serious, there are many moments where he can be quite a jokester and a ladies' man, which always made him very admirable and likable for me. His sort of leading man persona reminds me a lot of Zidane Tribal from Final Fantasy IX and Sonic the Hedgehog. This is also where we meet our second protagonist.
All right, allow me to introduce the Navigator, which I designed especially for you. Hey, Metal Gear, get out here! Metal, introduce yourself.
Yes, sir. Pleased to meet you, Gillian. I am Metal Gear Mach 2. I am programmed to be your personal assistant.
Metal Gear? That's a pretty weird name.
Oh, he's cute.
Thank you.
I think he's turning red. I took his basic design and his name from the Metal Gear menace of the late 20th century. But quite unlike that Metal Gear, this one was designed for peaceful purposes.
Metal Gear is Gillian's little robotic operating buddy. He helps Gillian assemble, research, and assess data, make phone calls, and navigate Neo Kobe City. Even though he's just a robot, Metal Gear and Gillian make a great team and have some of the best dialogue ever, as we'll see going forward.
I have a video phone call from Jean-Jacques Gibson coming in. Connecting.
Junker HQ, this is Gibson. I've cornered a probable male snatcher. I'm in the abandoned factory in the M District. Request immediate backup.
Gillian, that means you. You better head out right away. Jean needs your help.
We must hurry. We'll use a turbocycle to travel to the scene.
Be careful, Gillian.
I'd like to illustrate what the game can make you feel by going over Gillian's first mission with him. Upon arriving at the abandoned factory, we're greeted to some of the most oppressive and damning music I've ever beheld on a SEGA console.
Oh no!
What was that?
A male scream. Perhaps something has happened to Jean-Jacques. Gillian, please use extreme caution. I read multiple moving objects within the factory. This could indicate the presence of Snatchers or Insectors.
Insectors? What in the world's that?
A spider-like robot used by Snatchers as security devices. Though compact in size, they are armed with needle guns. Use extreme caution.
That scream. It's moments like these that, unlike most games, Snatcher really puts me on edge and afraid of what's about to happen. I'm not sure why, maybe it's the music or the graphics, but the atmosphere just bleeds. Wait, what is that?
What the?
It's Little John.
Little John?
Yes, Jean-Jacques Gibson's personal navigator.
Metal Gear proceeds to safely procure Little John's memory chip, and the two advance to the next room. Oh? What's that over there? What the? Oh my god. I'm just gonna come right out and say that it's safe to assume that basically no one who has ever played this game has actually seen a decapitated body just fresh out in the open, like, by the gods. Those who have played Snatcher have this image burned into their heads. This music just makes your blood race with tension. Funny, because this song is actually called Pleasure of Tension. After thoroughly examining the corpse, Metal makes an assessment of the DNA left behind by the Snatcher who killed John. I have to say, when Metal Gear scans all these things and talks all science-y about them, it just gets you so invested.
Brown. Hair structure reading of 65 indicates European subject, wavy hair. 3. Attachment of root structure and thickness of the base of the strand suggest hair was pulled out of follicle. 4. Enzyme antibody analysis indicates subject is blood type A, Rh factor negative. I'm reading movement.
Snatchers?
Unable to confirm. I suggest we investigate.
Damn, and just as they were on a Snatcher's tail, all they find is a dead end. What's that noise?
Whoa!
A time bomb?
Evacuate immediately! There is little time!
No, what now? It's those insectors Metal Gear warned us about. The game says to press the A button to draw your gun, or, back in the day, if you had your SEGA Justifier handy, you could actually aim at the screen like a Wii Zapper. Luckily I have one. What? I swear it's the real thing. I have a receipt, I just spray painted it.
We're getting out of here!
Sorry, I cannot go with you!
What's wrong with you? Hurry it up!
I am incapable of locomotion!
What on earth are you blabbering about? Let's go! It's gonna blow!
Please save yourself! I am paralyzed with fear!
Oh, I can't believe this stupid robot! Come on! Jeez, my ears are really ringing.
That's because you left the volume turned up.
Damn Snatchers.
There is no need for concern. I have stored all the information about the evidence and the area in my memory. We should return to Junker headquarters.
And that's the first mission. If you want to find out what happens next, well, you gotta play the game and see. It's an absolutely riveting story. So I wanted to go over the whole last part because it shows that Snatcher is not just an adventure point-and-click game, it has you questioning everything, and there's always something unexpected around the corner. It's part mystery, part shooter, and as we'll see soon, part open world even. To better illustrate these different genres that Snatcher encapsulates, I want to share some of my favorite moments in the game and others that I think have something peculiar to say. One of my favorite moments in the world of Snatcher is the fortune teller scene.
Well, what do you say? How about getting our fortune told?
We must get in line.
All right, who's next?
That's me.
Put your face up against here. Look straight ahead. Okay, I've got your retina pattern. What's on your mind?
Let's see. How about my prospects for marriage?
Marriage? But Gillian...
Hush, Metal. Don't worry about it.
So marriage is it? Let's see. Okay, that should do it.
Well, what's the outlook?
Your marriage line is in a high state of disorder.
Disorder?
Divorce, separation. You have a failed marriage, yes.
Yeah, that's right.
And let's see. That's not all. Yes, you are suffering from a memory loss, yes.
How can you tell all that?
The eyes are the windows of the soul.
Well then, how can I make things work out with her again?
That's up to you. If you have no memories, then make new ones.
Oh, really? Just like that?
The future is what you make of it. Who's next?
Thank you.
Metal Gear goes on to reveal that the fortune teller is actually a hacker because she just scans Gillian's retina patterns and just looks it up into a database. And Gillian, unfortunately, feels kind of duped. The fortune teller, although just a hacker, is right. The future is what you make it. You can't contaminate the future with past memories, otherwise you have no future. The future is generally never exactly what you imagine or asked for, but if you have hope, a good outlook on life, and something to do that's fun or keeps you busy that's not at the expense of others, then things will always be alright. In their quest to terminate Snatchers, Gillian and Metal Gear find themselves not just in the streets of Neo Kobe City, but even in apartment bathrooms too, and, well...
I read motion. This room.
Damn! Where is he?
Gillian, behind you.
That was close. You're lucky I was here to save your skin.
Who are you?
Me? Random Haji.
Random is a local bounty hunter. Random is one of my favorite characters in the story. He helps out Gillian and Metal Gear a lot. A scene with him I really like is when Gillian gets into his turbo cycle only to find out it's been sabotaged by a snatcher and is going to drive straight into a wall, sending Gillian to his doom. The game allows you to make a quick decision in this moment, the most hilarious of which is pray to God. I mean, it is an option. Funnily enough, Metal Gear is like, well, thanks to our prayers, another option has been added to the screen. Just when we're out of options, here comes good old Random. I got the biggest smile on my face at this moment, arriving like Falco at the end of Star Fox Adventures. You're very cultured if you got that reference.
Move your butt! That curve's just ahead!
Understood. 1, 2, 3!
Alright, Gillian, now it's your turn. Keep her steady.
300 meters until you reach the curve.
Gillian, jump! I can't! My timing's off!
150 meters.
Gillian, now!
70 meters.
Now, Gillian, now!
Oh, we're too late!
Gillian! I guess he didn't make it. Don't bury me so fast. I'm right here. Don't you even know how to ride a motorcycle?
Gillian, it's not much farther to Queen's Hospital, and you could probably use the exercise anyway. Why don't we just continue the rest of the way like this?
Moving on, the party goes to the Snatchers' headquarters, an abandoned hospital on the rundown side of town. Here, they find a lot of tech used to make Snatchers.
The Snatcher's functions have been terminated. There's no doubt now that this is their maintenance facility. This one was probably still waiting to get its artificial skin installed.
So this is what they really look like, huh?
Yeah, that's the scariest thing about them. You can't tell them from real people once they've got that skin on.
Perhaps that's humanity's great weakness. We're always judging books by their cover.
And it's just that human weakness that they're out to take advantage of.
I never really put much thought into it until I played this game, but it's true. Humans tend to judge each other based on their looks or just their first sighting of them and become suspicious, rather than trying to discern another person's true character. Earlier in the game, Metal Gear mentions that Snatchers do not like dogs. Why would that be? Well, dogs don't judge humans in terms of their looks. Dogs, and other kinds of animals and pets, have what I would call an intrinsic spirit of discernment. Animals aren't quite capable of being suspicious, but They can read behavior very well, unlike most people, and this is easily recognized by Snatchers and see them as an instant threat. Those who have played through this game are aware of a situation with a dog discovering a Snatcher earlier in the story. At the bottom of the hospital is a morgue, wherein the party finds the true bodies of 2 Snatchers they terminated in the past.
Good God!
I can't even imagine, like, say you met someone and then a few days later, you saw their body decomposing and infested with maggots. It would just make you question everything, like, damn. Alright, so we've talked a lot about some of my favorite moments, but I want to shift to the ending and give my thoughts and analysis on that. I admit this section will be very spoilery, so skip ahead to the time on the screen to jump to the end of the video if you do not wish to be spoiled. For those who didn't skip ahead, first of all, thank you, and let's continue. One of the head Snatchers, as it were, ambushes the party in the morgue and reveals that their ultimate plan is to snatch all of the world's leaders, achieve total control of human thought, and worldwide racial unification, thereby creating a new race of super beings. The Snatcher admits that their plan is not unlike that of the Nazis, to overpower the people's spirit and strike at our greatest weak point, quote, the most primitive part of our psychological makeup, our suspiciousness and fear. By provoking suspicion and mistrust throughout the populace, they will destroy all semblance of trust in society. Can you imagine? Like, trust is the original currency. Not being able to trust someone because they were a fake, that's just crazy. But not only a fake, a genuine fake. A fake so real you couldn't tell them apart. But if you had even the slightest suspicion of it, it would haunt your relationship with that person for all time and make you dislike them more and more. The idea actually calls into use the word person to describe people, as the word person comes from the ancient Greco-Roman dramas personas, the masks worn by actors for the show so that their voice may pass through it. To quote the British philosopher Alan Watts, that through which, per, the sound goes, sona. At the beginning of a drama, you will see the list of the dramatis personae, the persons of the drama, that is to say, the list of the masks that the actors are going to wear. And so, in that sense, when you say that someone is a real or authentic person, it's like saying they are a genuine fake. You see, the word has been so co-opted from its original use that the word person has come to mean your real, true, sincere, honest self and identity. Now, what if the mask is completely identical to the real person, a complete replica? How would you be able to tell the real from the fake? Is the fake even fake at that point? I don't know. However, I do believe that Snatcher is trying desperately to show us that we can't let what we think people are affect us from seeing how they actually are, whether that's evil or good. And we cannot force an identity on another person either, because if you force an identity on yourself or force others to view you as such, it will always be an unauthentic identity that people, and maybe even you, will eventually see through. Snatcher defines us as while people may be snatched, their heart and soul will never truly be copied. You could even extend this to say that the identities that we find ourselves with, that is to say, the roles we play, can snatch away our individualism. That's okay, to an extent, because an individual is not all you are. You exist in relation to how people factually know you, not necessarily how you wish people knew you. Like how our main character Gillian is a junker, but he's not just a junker, he's a husband, although sort of divorced, kinda, and he's a good friend too, as well as a ladies' man and a guy who loves a good Neo-Kobe pizza every once in a while. All that and more makes up his identity. It's when you forsake individualism or your group identity that, well, let's just continue with the ending before I get into that.
Gillian, at this rate they'll kill us all. You've got to get out alive. You're a junker. Just what have you have in mind? I've got a big fireworks show ready for him. Better that than get snatched.
What? You're gonna blow yourself up? No, we're better off fighting together.
Hey, it won't work. I'm hit in the thigh. Ow, oh, damn. A bounty hunter can't do anything with a leg wound like this. I might as well have been shot in the head.
There must be some way out of here.
Hey, I wasn't doing this job just for fun. I stayed ready for situations like this. I've always been prepared to go out with a bang.
It's December. A little late for fireworks.
So it'll be an off-season show.
No, I can't let you.
My belt's packed with TNT PX. You know, that really strong stuff they use in the mines on Mars. One push, and this whole hospital will go. No trouble at all. No time to sit around thinking, Junker boy. Go! Get out through this air shaft. I've got a powerful strobe on me. Its flash will screw up their sensors long enough for you to get out. Now, you with me? Fireworks are better from a distance anyway, Gillian. You ready? When I give the signal, break into the air shaft and run. And don't forget your blaster.
Metal, stay with me.
Yes, sir.
Random.
Gillian! Doesn't look like I'm gonna have a chance to call in that debt you owe me.
Don't worry. I'll pay it back to the Snatchers with interest.
All right, go! Run, Gillian!
Oh, Metal, are you okay? Metal, something broken?
Okay, but it appears that language circuits have been damaged somewhat.
What happened?
Random blew himself up after getting us into this air shaft.
We have to figure out how to get out of here.
I can't see a thing. What should we do?
What in the world?
This is part of the tube liner, the city's long-abandoned subway system.
You mean Queen's Hospital and this were connected?
Yes, it would appear that the Snatchers were using this to move from place to place.
The two finally make their way back to Junker headquarters, and the team gets a mysterious phone call. Gillian discovers that his wife Jamie has been kidnapped by Snatchers and taken to a mysterious abandoned church deep within Neo Kobe City. Out to rescue his estranged wife, Gillian and Metal make their way deep underground into the Snatchers' base, wherein their leader resides, Elijah Modnar.
Gillian, I've got my memory back. All of it.
What happened? Tell me, Jamie.
Try to remain calm, okay? 56 years ago, you and I were involved in a top-secret Soviet project. It was still during the time of the Cold War. The gulf between East and West was as wide as ever. Everybody was worried about nukes. At that point, the world's armies were at their largest ever. Leaders still believed that a strong military meant a strong nation. There were rumors that there would be an agreement to end the production of nuclear weapons. On the other hand, the major powers like the US began to get involved in a space weapons race. But not the Soviets. The conservative despots in the Kremlin had another, completely different idea for gaining military superiority. A horrible plan, something no one else would think of. At that time, the countries of the communist bloc were facing an economic crisis. Popular movements pushing for democracy were springing up all over. Communism itself was facing extinction. Facing pressure from the reformers, the Kremlin began to panic. And that's when that horrible, childish plan was launched.
And that was the Snatcher Project. Replace your enemy's leaders with puppets of your own. Then you control their governments, their economies, take over a country from the inside out.
That's right, Gillian. And to develop these robots, they assembled some of the most brilliant scientific minds from around the world. Some of them were even brought in against their will. At the crux of that development effort was a group called the Frankenstein Project Team. You and I were members of that team, Gillian. It was a 4-person team led by the late Professor Modnar here. The robotics expert was Professor Modnar himself. His son, Elijah Modnar, handled genetics and microbiology. For nanobiology and picobiology, myself. And for behavioral science and psychology, you, Gillian.
Why don't you let me finish your little story?
Elijah? Is that really you?
So you remember me, do you? I am Elijah Modnar. I'm afraid I've grown somewhat old and feeble since we last met, however. I'm no politician. I couldn't care less about what happened to the country. All I cared about was my research, and I was to lose all of that, everything. For someone so young, you cannot understand how great of a shock that was.
Elijah.
That is when I decided, I swore I would see that secret craze project through to the end.
Just what are you trying to accomplish, Elijah?
I'm only interested in discovering what I can of the human animal.
It sounds like you're just suffering from the wild arrogance that corrupts so many scientists.
Humans are such weak creatures. No matter how much they trust one another, the tiniest speck of suspicion can destroy it all. Look at how the Snatcher problem has caused such wild unrest. No matter how much science advances or how high we set our ideals, we eventually begin to suspect each other, to hate each other, and then to kill each other. The Snatchers are nothing more than a tool for bringing out this reaction. I am simply using the Snatchers to elicit the true nature of the human animal. I think this experiment has shown me the limits of human society. I sincerely doubt it will be able to reach any greater level of prosperity on its own. If human society ever hopes to reach greater heights, what is needed is an absolute leader, a firm ruler who isn't affected by these trivial episodes of mistrust.
You're crazy if you think people would ever obey Snatchers.
Of course they wouldn't. But if they don't know, they cannot object. There has been a time in every age that the people have longed for a god to lead them. As long as they give the people no reason to suspect them, then they can easily become their gods. Indeed, a new race of super beings.
Of course, the heroes win in the end, but there's a lot more surprises and things to behold in Snatcher, so go play it if you want to find out what happens next. But more importantly, I want to talk about Elijah. What he sought to do was, in the event of losing everything he cared for, he forsook all of his personhood and began to rationalize that as a scientist, only he knew what was best for the world. That's what I meant earlier when saying that trying to force others to view you a certain way will only ever result in failure. I wouldn't say that Elijah himself is that amazing of a villain, but the Snatchers and the overall threat of them as a villainous force is one of the most memorable and scary and impactful I've ever seen in a game. Because it's not just the big bad guy, it's the bad guys taking who you perceive to be good and forcibly putting them on their team against you. Earlier in the video, I had mentioned that if you forsake both individualism and your group identity, then something happens. And what that is selling your soul. Whether that be to the devil or to an ideology, it's all the same. To sell your soul simply means to forsake both your history and your place in the world for something far beyond your control. Many great villains throughout fiction have done this because they genuinely believed it was the right thing to do, but it's not, because just as people can be easily fooled by each other, so too can ideology, temptation, or arrogance fool you as well. It can even happen when you least realize it and your soul's already been snatched up and gone. I do not believe my analysis to be indicative of the developer or Kojima's intentions, but it's what I personally gleaned from the story. Feel free to tell me your own analysis in the comments and we can discuss. Well, that's Snatcher. Damn, what an absolutely legendary game. It dives into some deep and timeless topics, especially with the advent of AI these days. I definitely see myself playing through Snatcher again someday, possibly on the channel. Along with that, I'm also looking forward to trying out the English translation for SD Snatcher on MSX2. A Snatcher JRPG sounds like a fantastic time. There were supposed to be multiple sequels of Snatcher, but unfortunately they never came to be for whatever reason. Snatcher is one of the greatest video games ever made, in my opinion, and its story and world have stood the test of time, culminating into what I firmly believe is the #1 greatest SEGA CD game of all time. I'm not old enough to have been around when the SEGA CD was in its prime, but it's an impressive add-on that has its faults. That said, the library is unlike any other. One of my favorite things about the SEGA CD as a whole is its absolute banger of a startup theme for version 2 in North America. It's sad that this add-on gave SEGA such a bad reputation, such a strange twist of events that the add-on's best apps, Snatcher and Lunar 2 among others, were ultimately commercial failures, just like the add-on itself. People definitely knew of the add-on. It's got quite the legacy for being cherished and tarnished, but its high price, poor management, and silly marketing did it in. Imagine if the SEGA CD did succeed as much as they hoped and there was no 32X, but the Saturn confidently released on time. We would have gotten a great many games throughout its lifespan and could have had a very different future in the cards, don't you think? In the end, the SEGA CD sold approximately 2.7 million units, released over 200 games worldwide, and was discontinued in 1996. With that, thank you for listening if you made it this far. If you liked the video, drop a like, subscribe, and comment your favorite SEGA game, CD or otherwise.